Yulia, and I'm with the Feldenkrais Guild of North America. And I am so excited today because I have Cynthia Allen, who agreed to be interviewed today. Cynthia, she's a longtime Feldenkrais practitioner. She's also a senior trainer in movement intelligence, a method created by Ruthie Alon. And she also created a very popular summit called Feldenkrais Awareness Summit. Usually she is the one who interviews people. So today is a bit of change for her. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi, Yulia. Thanks for having me.
Um, Today we're talking about chronic pain, and it's something that I know Feldenkrais method can be very effective in working with. So first, I would like to ask you, Cynthia, about how do you define chronic pain?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's very important to separate out pain, acute pain, from chronic pain. So, in the nervous system, we absolutely have to have acute pain to tell us when something is dangerous. Okay, and so typically in the healthcare model, they call chronic pain something that persists after 6 weeks. Now, you and I know that we will see people sometimes that have had it for 10, 15, 20 years. And so this is the point in which the nervous system, this thing that constantly is asking, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay? On our behalf, has now gotten a little bit, maybe perhaps a little bit confused and has started to root in a pattern of interpreting sensations as pain. And I'll say perhaps because there are some things, other things to consider. But one of the big things I say is, as a saying, is the blame on pain lies mainly in the brain. For people who maybe have seen My Fair Lady back in the day, that my age or older will remember Julie Andrews and her talking about the rain on the plane in Spain, right? But what we do know that we have all kinds of different stimuluses that come in, and then within the brain or the nervous system itself, the decision is made to decide whether or not we should interpret that as pain. So in chronic pain, it gets a little blurry about whether or not that's a helpful message to us anymore, because you're not in an acute injury danger pattern, but your nervous system is wired to constantly make sure you're safe, so it has a tendency to search for pain more than pleasure. And then we already know that when somebody gets good at any particular thing, the thing that they do more of, they get good at and do even more of it. So you can actually develop a habit, which we would just actually call neuroplasticity. It becomes a pattern within the nervous system to search for pain.
So would you say that you get overly sensitized? So any little.
Yes, right. In some cases, they call it they call it a centralized pain syndrome, centralizing around pain. I think it's more complex than that, and I think we understand that as more complex than that in the Feldenkrais method. And so I think once we actually get into the ways that at least I think the Feldenkrais method helps, we start to begin to realize the complexity of it, that it's not only centralization, centralization. I'm not even going to get the word out now. Anyway, it's not only becoming sensitive to the pain signals, but that can definitely be a part of it. And I just have to say right there that people are going to think that I might be saying that they are the cause of their pain. I am absolutely not saying that. Definitely not. I understand chronic pain. Personally, had struggled with it from at a very, very young age, started struggling with pain, and I totally understand that it's not helpful to think it's in your head, as in a psychological kind of thing, but it's really actually you're wired to notice pain. So we have to somehow change that habit of noticing pain in some, I think, pretty novel ways that we can use in the Feldenkrais work.
So how is Feldenkrais method effective in dealing with chronic pain?
Yeah. So, I think it's effective because we don't try to get rid of pain. This is going to be And instead we work at it without focusing so much on pain. We begin to do something very interesting in both functional integration, the private one-on-one work, as well as in the awareness through movement work. And that very something interesting starts to give us novel stimuluses that allows us to start to know the parts of our body better. So we have sensory maps that are really important, that drive motor coordination and also how we understand our body, that drive how we use ourselves and the way that we act in the world. And these maps, if you want to change that map, that your brain has gone, hey, when she wants to reach for glass, she always reaches this way. I know that pattern, I know that pathway, and even though I feel something in my arm that doesn't feel quite right about it, but I do it again and again and again, and then, you know, millions of times later, now suddenly my arm doesn't want to go there anymore because it's like, didn't like that so much. If you want to get a different journey mapped out, then you have to give the brain novel stimuluses. You'd have to wake up that neuroplasticity again that says, hey, there's like maybe a new way to reach. Oh, there's a new way that the arm and the shoulder work. Oh, hold it. There's a way that the pelvis supports the arm or the foot. So this really starts to change these deeply rooted maps in a way that we begin to use ourselves differently. So that's one way that we work with it. Another way is that because we start to move better, we begin to do what I call move away from wear and tear to wear and repair. So when we reach, you know, I'm using my right arm because I have trouble with this right arm. I'm working with it these days and doing a lot of experimentation about, hey, how come when I reach with my right arm, my ribs don't go along, but when I reach with my left arm, everything is ready? How come everything is ready this way and it's not already that way? So I've been playing with that actually a lot in the last couple of weeks. When a person is not able to use themselves really with their whole being, that means that one area, usually around a joint or a muscle attachment or tendon attachment, is being asked to do a movement it's not really designed to do. And so it begins to become inflamed, and then it begins to get wear, and we have all heard about bone on bone, particularly as it relates to knees or hips. And this is largely a movement problem that's developed over many, many years, decades, definitely decades of use, where the trajectory of force and the way that the body was handling that joint began to cause inflammation, and then gradually it starts to change in terms of cartilage and wears down the ability to get good lubrication in the joint, and then there's actually bony changes. Well, we want to move away from that wear and tear to wear and repair. And what that means to go to wear and repair is that, yes, just muscle, joints, bone, all need some stress. But we want it to be just the right amount of stress, a healthy amount of stress that then allows it to go, oh, yeah, I broke down a little bit there. I can now repair that in a healthy way. So I can now lubricate that joint in a healthy way. I'm finally getting some movement that feels right in that joint, and now the joint lubrication can happen and make it a smoother and easier glide, and that also feeds the actual cartilage. It actually feeds the cartilage. Circulation changes. So many things happen when you start to move in a way that allows you to go away from wear and tear to wear and repair. So those are two ways. And I've got a couple more to share too, but I'm going to stop and see if you have some questions about those.
Sure, thank you. I've heard comments from some of my students in group classes, you know, those who have had chronic pain for a while, and they would say that doing these micro movements that we encourage in awareness through movement classes often relieves the pain or even leaves them without the pain for a certain period of time afterwards.
Hmm.
Is that one of those that you wanted to mention? Is it something that
Yeah, it is. There's a quality in how we teach people to attend to themselves, uh, so that they aren't staying focused on the pain. So remember that what we do more of, we get better at. So we can actually train ourselves, unfortunately, very easily to get better at producing pain responses. So what happens in awareness through movement classes is we're constantly being asked to do movements that are outside the pattern that usually causes pain, and we're being encouraged to find a pathway that causes less pain and more ease, more pleasure, more a deeper, nicer, calmer breath, a sense of something releasing, relaxing. So we are starting to increase the vocabulary of what the person is looking for, to be way beyond that thing that when you wake up in the morning you go, am I in pain this morning? Oh yeah, I think I'm in pain. Oh yeah, no, the step. Oh no, I might be. Oh no, I'm really in a bad shape now today. This is going to be a bad day, and the whole day just kind of goes like that. Now there's some new players in town for a person, not just within the lesson, but even as they leave, they're going, oh, wow, that step felt really nice. That step felt nice.
so you're
And
saying instead of searching for pain, now they're searching for pleasure more?
now they've got at least a part of their attention has now been rerouted away from this to what else is there. So the world is expanding in
Mhm.
terms of brain. The brain is expanding for them, but also their actual movement patterns are expanding away from those things that were causing wear and tear as well, or just maybe away from the movement that originally scared the nervous system so bad because it was hurt in that accident, it was hurt in that moment of impact. Uh, you're moving away from that repetitiveness where it keeps getting reinforced into some really new territory. So the brain is soaking that up, really becoming interested in it.
Thank you. Do you have any success stories you could share with us? Anybody you worked with that you helped to get out of pain?
Yeah, I am thinking about somebody who has given me permission to share this. She's written a couple of times about it. And, I remember when she first came to see me many years ago now, she came for a cyst in her spine that they believed was causing the pain for her. And really there wasn't a lot of options being given to her, and so she thought, well, I'll try this Feldenkrais thing. I think it was her chiropractor, as I recall it, referred her. And in fact, after a few sessions, we did in fact find easier ways for her to move and go about in the world that decreased the pain. And well, actually, she said she didn't need it. She didn't need the work anymore, to be more exact. Then, many years later, she called me up and reminded me that she wanted to come back, reminded me of who she was, which she didn't really need to remind me. I remembered her very, very well. And when she came in for that session, she started to cry almost as soon as she walked in the door. And later she said, well, I cried because I thought maybe I was going to get relief finally. And she had a neck problem going on, and she really loved to paint, and she also was a musician, and she had basically given up painting, as in painting. She was a decorator, painting rooms. She had given up painting rooms and decorating, and she had given up all of her different ensembles that she was a part of as a musician because of the amount of neck pain and shoulder pain that she was in. And so I worked with her a little bit in functional integration. Again, she started to get better pretty quickly. And then we went into the pandemic. And so she started attending online classes with me, and because I wasn't seeing people privately. And that was really interesting for her as well, to continue on doing online classes. And then there was a big break where I was not going to be even in the online classes with them, like a couple of months. And during that time frame, she was able to continue to do lessons that we had made available to her. But more importantly, she had a moment where she thought to herself, I wonder if I could paint my room again. I want to change the colors of this room. She said, maybe I could just paint a little bit each day. I wouldn't have to do like I used to do. And it turned out she could do a wall and wasn't in trouble. And so then the next day she did the other wall and she wasn't in trouble. And then she said, got towards the end, she realized she was starting to get into trouble. And then she went back and did some lessons and felt fabulous again. So to me, that is an incredible way in which this work empowers people to be back in charge of their lives and widens the lens of awareness so that they can experience a bigger palette of sensations than just all day long going, am I in pain? Am I in pain? Oh, I can't do that. Instead, there's some creative responses available.
Wow, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing. I actually have a question. One last question I have is, I notice with working with people, a lot of times the environment they created for themselves is often contributing to them continuing to have the pain in lifestyle they have, the work style they have, how they kind of treat themselves on a daily basis. That all makes an impact. How do you work with clients in that way? Is there a way, what advice do you give people to help alter that environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've changed a lot about this as I've grown older. So I recognize now that people are going to make choices about how they want to spend their time. And I think these are really valid choices. And sometimes people have not many other ways of making a living, for example. So let's say that this woman had been somebody who actually made her living painting houses. She would not have been able to take a break necessarily from it. So we can look as closely as we can for ways that they might be able to adapt within the reality of the situation that they're in. And we surely look for how the details of how the person is lifting the brush to the wall and how they roll it up, and how do they look up at the ceiling when they're painting a ceiling, or they get higher on the wall, and how do they feel the base of support in their feet. We can get into that kind of detail as well. But I have very little negative judgment anymore about how people end up living their lives, and even if they find that they do keep goading themselves back into the pain pattern, it can be very challenging. People's situations can be very challenging. So I think we have options to offer people. Those options will be, some of them will just be incredible and they'll be able to take advantage of them. Some of them they might not be able to take advantage of. And they may still find, though, that they're able to somehow modulate even better, even in really difficult situations. And that's life. That's just life. So yeah, it's kind of a dance between reality and reality of what is, how many choice points there are. Feldenkrais said life is not so sweet without choices, right? Without choices. And I've always loved that part of his quote from Elusive Obvious that talks about that. So anytime we can help increase people's choices, most people don't want to suffer, and if they can choose to go in a better direction, they will. They'll have a habit of tending to go back, especially under stress, or something that reminds them of that thing that they know how to do so well, as long as they just go back to their painting. Like if I was painting and I was painting with this arm and I was trying to get the room done, and, then we'll go back to that. They surely will. And then they might be able to interrupt themselves and go, hey, okay, I'm getting some messages here that this is not great. What have I got to offer myself in this moment that I can maybe do this differently? So anytime we can increase choices, life is better.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you, Yulia. It's a pleasure to talk with you.